Welcome to the Pinning Combination Podcast. I'm KJ Pilcher alongside Dick Briggs. Neither one of us are in the transfer portal or taking steroids. Um, so we got that going for us. But here we are, man. Our season finale. The D1 championships are behind us now. Some amazing matches and happenings, I guess you would say. But wow, what a D1 championships, huh, Coach?
Yeah, it's funny because in the past, it's kind of gone like semifinals are the really exciting and the best round, and the finals are kind of ho hum. It's just, and then quarterfinals are kind of whatever. Not this year. Quarterfinals were so exciting. Semifinals exciting. Finals exciting. All three rounds to me were just, you got your money's worth.
Yeah, I think you saw that every session.
Right.
Even boy, I think there were like 20 uh like 20 upsets or something like that out of the first session, if I remember Jason Bryant announcing that or saying that correctly at one time. So just every session, unfortunately for Iowa State, I think the biggest upset in round one was at their expense with Panero Johnson, but you saw that just each round
Right.
where you kind of had those head scratching, kind of head shaking, what just happened there. You had a 20 seed in the semis, double digit seeds in the semis. We'll talk about it later, but NCAA champs was not a pretty tournament for a lot of returning NCAA champions. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the history that was made. Obviously, the big win at heavyweight with Wyatt Hendrickson and Gable Stevenson, Carter Starochi, and Parker Keckeisen. We got that matchup, and Carter Starochi making history as the first five-timer. But let's knock out the state schools here. Iowa coming in just had a big question mark. Where would they finish after finishing, kind of a pedestrian third at the Big Tens? Figuring they could go anywhere between second and fifth or sixth. They end up finishing fourth and getting a trophy, improving last year's finish. 5 All-Americans for them. What was your biggest takeaway from the Hawkeyes performance?
I look at the Hawkeyes and I think there's two sides to that coin. They had 3 finalists, a champ, 2 runners-up, and a couple other medalists that did very well. And then their other half of their team, the other contingent, didn't do so well. Now I don't know how much injuries played into that a little bit, but so they kind of they got to be excited. They had 3 in the finals, and they're never happy to be second, but still to get 3 there and then finish fourth, that's not their goal. But like I said, you got 2 sides to that coin. So I think they're happy in one instance and not so happy on the other.
I think you nailed it right on the head. They're opposite ends of the spectrum. Obviously, Teamer hasn't been healthy throughout the whole season. I don't think, even though I think Tom Brand's kind of downplayed that a little bit going in. Obviously Kyle Parko hurt his knee, had to medically default out. I think that's the biggest hit when it comes from injuries. But you knew you probably weren't going to get any points out of Joey Cruz, which I think that's one thing I think people are kind of overlooking is boy, you would think Iowa should be getting points from everybody, right? Um, that wasn't injury related. They didn't have a 41 pounder in the mix. Um, Gabe Arnold was seeded 11th, and I think it was just the round before the round of 12, so that's kind of a wash. Um, but those weights where they're not getting any points, that's something that it's got to get looked at. I think a little bit, and that's a disappointment. You just can't have that if you're going to contend for a title, especially with what Penn State does, becoming the second team all time to have 10 All Americans. But having three in the finals, obviously, both or two were seeded second with Ayala and Buchanan. Caliendo was number 3 seed, so having those three in the finals was good. Buchanan obviously becoming a national champ. That was huge. How big is that for Iowa? That's their first champ since 2022, I think. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's big. They had. You got your superstar in Spencer Lee, who brought home a couple there, and so prior to Spencer Lee, I don't remember who were we talking about that? It's another 25 pounder, I think. What?
Corey Clark.
Corey Clark, yeah, and so it's been a while. So yeah, that's big, I think. And he really looked good. I thought Buchanan did a real nice job. Just solid. Got a couple takedowns in the semifinals and finals, one in each of those matches, and that was terrific wrestlers. And it just seems like a nice kid. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that you like to see good things happen to good people, right? Yeah. And this was one of those situations where he made history. The first person to All-American at 3 different institutions. Was an All-American at Wyoming, then went to Oklahoma and was an All-American. Finished 3rd the previous 2 years, but very, very humble, nice, individual, strong competitor, as you mentioned. Bounced back from that loss to Cardenas in the finals of the Big Ten. Had an interesting semifinal with Ferrari. So that was a toughie to get by, and he did face Josh Barr in the finals in a rematch from a regular season duel, and boy, he got a slick takedown there in the second. Nice little reattack that propelled him to a win, but no, it was really good, and it's one of those stories too where I know there's been a lot of criticism about the transfer portal, that people are just going around trying to cash in. I really would like to think this was something that was more than that this is where he really thought he could fit in, help a team, and help himself to take that next step. And here he gets to the finals for the first time and actually finishes off his career with a title because of the move that he made. I'd like to think that's kind of how it actually is.
I don't necessarily agree with you on that.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
Now I'm gonna put it this way. I think we're gonna see more 3-time All-Americans at different schools, because I think you're gonna have it. I'm not saying Buchanan is, but I think you're gonna have people that are chasing the money. And I think back and I wonder when a wrestler or an athlete leaves a school, they put in that time and effort, like in this instance at Oklahoma State and at Wyoming. Wonder what kind of relationship he then has at those schools. Can he go back to those schools and comfortably, talk to people and that sort of? It's kind of saddening, and it's what college athletics at the highest level is going to become and has become people kind of following the money, and it's a win-win for him. He gets to come to a program. He feels like he can win that title, and he did, and maybe get some coin in his pocket too. So, so I'm with you, but I'm not 100% there.
Sure, and it could just vary from case to case. The reasons why. Dean Hammondy's another one that transferred and it worked out well for. To Wyatt Hendrickson, even though I think that's a whole different that's a whole different ball of wax because of his, the service academy's not honoring the COVID year. He had to get special. I think he had to get special permission to be able to continue wrestling in another institution while still being on active duty or what have you. I don't know the specifics on that deal, but I will say, he was somebody that if you look at the Air Force coaches and their reaction on social media, Chris Heilman, who used to be a Cornell wrestler, and he's an assistant out there. They're really happy for him. Of course, that's a whole different thing where he couldn't use his last year of eligibility at Air Force, so he had to transfer. So that's apples to oranges, maybe there. But yeah, it'll depend on the situation and whether or not it's a good split or if it's somebody that's just chasing the next best thing and using other programs as stepping stones to get to where they're at. And that's what you hope doesn't end up being the case.
Right. And you're going to see, I mean, coaching wrestling has become more than just going into the room, showing the technique and aligning the schedule and all of the things that need to happen there. But it's become more of a fundraiser. You need to bring in that NIL money to make your program be viable. And it's sad that that's what it's become. And as fans, it's sad that we feel like we're obligated to share our money in that respect to make our program stronger. And then when maybe someone doesn't produce, now we're going to have ill feelings, and it's just it's a mess. And we talked about that last year and the year before in a penny combination. I don't like where it's going, but it's what it is.
Yep. Let's touch on the two other finalists for Iowa, Drake Ayala, falling to Lucas Bird winning the rubber match between the two, 3-2 in the tiebreaker periods. There's a big stall call that was that led to a point during that tiebreaker. What were your thoughts on the Bird Ayala match? One, I thought Bird was the aggressor the entire time. So I'm not really not putting a lot of emphasis on that stall call at all, because I think it probably could have come maybe at a different point in the match even.
I would agree. I'll say it probably should have come based on the rules and how Drake was backing up and kind of on the edge there a couple of times. And based on the rules there, he probably should have been warned and pointed because it was his second warning, pointed in the regulation. At the timing of the call, I don't necessarily agree with, and it became an issue. It gave Bird a point in the sudden, or not sudden victory, but the tiebreaker, which meant that Bird now didn't have to take down when it was his choice for the 30. He could just go neutral and stall it out and win on riding time, I believe. And it's just the time. I'm with you. I think it probably should have been called sooner, but when it was called, I don't think was correct. Everyone's the armchair umpire or referee, so.
Referee. Yeah. 2 years in a row getting second. What's that? What do you think that does? That is that tougher to swallow for Ayala? Does it light an even bigger fire for him going forward, or how does that affect Ayala going forward?
Yeah, I think it does light a fire for him going forward. I think it's very disappointing for him to be second. But let's not forget he bumped up a weight class,
True,
so
true.
kudos for him for being second, from going from 25 to 33. So and obviously he's right there, and that's what makes it even tougher pill to swallow. So
Right.
but I think he'll have a lot of motivation.
Mikey Caliendo making the finals at 165. Great uh, great performance to get to the finals. Beat Peyton Hall from West Virginia, the number 2 seed in the semis. Uh, Lost the decision to Mitchell Messenbrink, 0-6 now against Mitchell Messenbrink. Kind of closed the gap in these last 2 meetings in the Big Ten and national finals. 8-2. It was 5-2, and I think Caliendo, kind of last ditch effort led to that final takedown from Messenbrink, who was really in control the whole time, too. But really thought, after Buchanan, Caliendo wrestled really, really well throughout the tournament.
Right, and it kind of started out poorly for him. First of all, he's wrestling Messenbrink, who's maybe the Hodge Award winner. He's one of the final 3 candidates, and boy, I don't know. He certainly might deserve my vote. I haven't voted or anything, but we'll see how that works out. But it started out rough because he had to take an injury timeout. I believe it was a wrist or hand injury, which in college when you take an injury timeout, now that's why you don't see very many of them.
Well, he hit his jaw. Hit his head.
That's right. Yeah, on that flurry, you're right. So anyway, he had to take that. So now Messenbrink could take down, get an escape, and now he's ahead 1-0. And on a guy that's the Hodge Award candidate, you don't want to be giving points away. And that kind of changed a little bit of where the match was at. And then he gave up that takedown. And you're right. I think he gallantly tried an inside leg trip at the end with about 8 seconds left or whatever, and gave up that takedown. So it was closer than 8-2 for sure.
2 other performances. Iowa finished with 5 All-Americans. I want to say, boy, that's the most since maybe 2021 when they won it. They finished 4th in the team race with 81 points. But Patrick Kennedy finally getting on the awards stand, finishing 4th at 174. And then Ben Keeter earning All-American honors, placing 8th at heavyweight. Those 2, I know Keeter finished below his seed, but I think going into the postseason, if you said he finishes as an All-American, that would be a positive. And again, for Kennedy, coming away, the 11 seed, finishing 4th. I mean, I think that's got to be a feel-good situation for all involved.
I know Ben Keeter was below his seed, but I don't care. Making that podium, he's got to feel good about that. Yeah. And
I agree.
And with Kennedy, that opens up a whole what are we going to have next year sort of question, so, that good for him. I mean, he's earned that and wrestled tough this year. And so I was glad to see he and Caliendo, right in those middle weights doing really well for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, right. Especially for a school that I think has been tagged like a lightweight or lower weight, type of program where that's their strength. You had four of your All-American and your national champ in the middle to upper weights this year. So kind of interesting how that kind of played out where 65 to heavyweight, you have four All-Americans, two finalists, and a champ. When you're known for kind of being a lightweight program.
Right. And I know I'll just say it because we're going to talk about it later. I was just going to mention the what's going to happen with that NIL and who's going to bring things in. Things are already starting to shake out a little bit.
So. Just want to throw some numbers out there because I'm kind of a stats geek a little bit, but with the 5 All-Americans this year, that's 332 All-Americans for the University of Iowa, and at least one in the last 54 NCAA tournaments that the streak began in 1972. Iowa's had at least 4 All-Americans in each of the last 17 seasons of Tom Brands' 18-year tenure, and the fourth place finish is their 15th team trophy in the last 17 NCAA championships. So just kind of throwing that out there for Iowa. And of course, they continue their streak, 35 straight years with a national finalist with the 3 wrestle Saturday night as well. So let's switch to UNI. The Panthers finished 9th in the team race. Their best finish since moving to Division One, back to Division One, in 1980, I believe. They end up with 2 All-Americans. Parker Kekai is in a 5-time All-American for the Panthers, and then Cale Happel finishing his career with a 5th place finish at 141. So 2 bright spots there. The first thing I mentioned, Coach Doug Schwab was named the National Wrestling Coaches Association Coach of the Year on Saturday. He received his award between the sessions there. In his 15 years, this is their best finish. It's the first time since 1986 that UNI qualified all 10 wrestlers to the D1 championships. As Mike Moyer said, UNI also went 14-1. They were runners-up at the Big 12 championships and won the NWCA D1 national duels in January as well. Well-deserved honor for Doug Schwab.
Absolutely. I mean, what a team. It was a fun team to watch. Got to go up and see the UNI and Nebraska meet. And honestly, UNI wrestled so well. And in that meet, UNI beat 2 national champions.
That's right.
I got the off the top of my head. Happel won, right?
Yep.
And then
Real Beto.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, it was a fun meet, and put it to, I mean, that's Nebraska, who can say a couple of the kudos to them. They had a great tournament, finished second, first time ever, 8 All-Americans, first time ever. Had a real great tournament. So, for the Panthers to do that on that team, and they had a great tournament. They had a great season. I don't think they had a great tournament. They had 2 guys that were seeded in the to land on the podium and didn't. One of our good friends and that we followed through the years, Wyatt Volker got upset first round and then had of course brutal on that backside, right? And
got to the round of 12. I mean, heck of an effort to get back to that point, but just missed out. Yep.
Right, and I think all the Panthers scored won at least a match, so scored points, towards their total. I know the Panthers have finished 10th a few times, but not, to hear that they were 9th, that doesn't surprise me. But as far as they're concerned, I think they're disappointed. They probably should have been thinking they should have been placing, like we talked last time, maybe top 4. Could have been their goal.
Well, I'll just put it this way: you mentioned a few of those things. Northern Iowa finished 9th with 45.5 points. They were only 6 points out of the top 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there were at least 6 points that were left on the table. There. So yeah, kind of maybe a little bit of a mixed thing, but the fact that they cracked the top 10. I'm sure they wish they had a couple more All-Americans when it was all said and done. But, yeah, I think overall positive for them. Heck, they're close to spoiling history for a little bit with Keckeisen there in the finals. But, yeah, and Happel. Before we talk about the Keckeisen Strozzi final, really happy for Cale Happel, and I also have to tip my cap to probably one of the best lines from an announcer. Did you hear about Jason Bryant's announcement when Happel beat Navy's Josh Coderhant in the quarterfinals to become an All-American?
I don't think I did hear it, no.
After he won, that secured All-American finish, top 6 finish at 141 for Happel. Put him against Brock Hardy in the semis. Jason Bryant announced, "How do you like them Happels?" I gotta give a slow clap to Jason Bryant on that. That was a good one, and certainly Happel deserved it. That's for sure. Think about the progress that he's made over the years. Gets to the Big 12 championships his freshman year. Seeded 6th, goes 0-2, and misses out on a national berth. Has to be an alternate, so he has to go to the NCAA tournament. Watch, he's got to be ready to go just in case something happens. But he ends up doing all that and just having to watch his teammates wrestle. The next year he goes to the Big 12s, goes 0-2 again, but has a good enough resume to get in at large. Doesn't place. His third season, he ends up being a Big 12 finalist, gets an automatic berth, doesn't place at the national tournament. This year, he becomes a Big 12 champion, gets to the NCAA tournament, makes it to the semifinals, ends up finishing 5th, finishes his career with a victory, even though it's probably not the placing match that he wanted to finish on with a win, but still, the way he just continued to climb when it could have been easy to plateau or even think, man, I'm not gonna break through. He just continued to improve each time and finishes with a nice national tournament in an All-American finish.
Right. So, and he in his last match of his career, for the 5th and 6th place match, he's wrestling the kid that he wrestled earlier from Navy,
Yeah.
Calderham. I don't remember his name.
Calderham. Yep.
Anyway, wrestling him. Very close match on the semis, or the quarters, I guess, to make the semis. And then, I believe it was 8-2 for that 5th and 6th place match in favor of Happel. And so, having been there and done that, it's so much more. You can put your head down on your pillow and say, "Man, I finished it like I wanted to, with a victory, get my hand raised." And if he'd have lost to the kid that he knows he can beat, having been there, I've done that because I was hanging my head because I didn't win my national title. So good for him on that. I totally 100% know how important that last match. If not right now, it's going to be to look back on his career and say, I ended it like I wanted, with a victory over a guy I know I could beat.
Sure.
I did junior year 4th and my senior year 3rd when I should have been 1st both years. I wasn't going out 4th again.
Gotcha. Let's talk about Parker Keckeisen. I mean, what a heck of a career that he's put together. 3rd straight finals appearance at 184. Won a title last year. 5-time All-American. 5-time Big 12 champ. 3-time finalist. Falls 4-3 to Starochi, who becomes the first 5-time D1 champion. First, what was your takeaway from the finals match? It seemed very, very similar to the NWCA All-Star Classic match that they had. And is he the best Panther of all time?
So you say similar. I had written down it's a carbon copy of the first match. It's carbon copy where basically Keckeisen's the aggressor, though he wasn't all that aggressive, but just still more than Starochi. Starochi does a reach out or a counter attack and scores, and then hangs on and plays the edge of the mat that he plays so well. So, he's a 5-timer. Congratulations, and he beat the defending champ at that weight. So kudos to him. But I don't know. I wasn't all that impressed. But I wear purple underwear, so.
No, I get you. What about his semifinal against McAnally though? That was one that was exceptional. First, I think wrestling and baseball, those are two things where people associate action with the points that are scored or the runs that are scored, where you don't necessarily have to have exciting action. You can get exciting action with low scoring matches or games. I think there's a lot of action in McAnally and Keckeisen, even though, it was just one takedown and sudden victory. But I think that was a match that was fun. A lot of attempts and counters. It wasn't a boring match with just one takedown. And Parker Keckeisen pulling off a heck of a scramble there to come out with the winning takedown. And that was everything I think it was built to be, just to get to the finals at 184.
Okay, that was my number 2 on my top 5.
Okay.
So let's talk about
We'll hold that until we talk to the top 5 then.
Okay.
But Keckeisen 133-6 overall. 5 of his losses coming at the NCAA tournament. 1 to Starochi, 2 to Or is it 3 to Aaron Brooks? 3 to Aaron Brooks, right?
Well, one doesn't count though, right? Is that right?
Oh, which one doesn't count?
Oh no, sorry, I was thinking you said Brooks. I was thinking Strocci.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yep. Yeah. So you're right.
Yeah, because I think 3 of his 4, once in the finals to Brooks, and I think twice in the semis when he finished, or maybe not. Maybe one was to Truex. I think 4. Sorry, 4 of his losses: 2 to Brooks, 1 to Strocci, 1 to Truex in the NCAA tournament. So he only lost 2 regular season matches his entire career. I know it's a little bit different because some Panthers didn't get, an extra year. Most didn't. But what he's done, I mean, had a 59 match win streak between his 2 final losses. First, what was it? The first 3-time finalist for UNI since Bill Cole in the 40s. So, boy, it's hard not to put the crown on his head, call him King Panther.
Like I said before, yeah, modern day, absolutely. I don't have any problem crowning him there. If you go back to the 40s like you just did, now all of a sudden you're talking about Olympic champ and some other Olympians. And so it's hard to – that's apples to oranges. You just can't do that anymore. So the greatest of all time, in my opinion, is certainly my life. My father, who's still kicking it, going to be 98 in next about 3 weeks here.
Oh wow!
And he was at UNI. Sorry, I believe it was State Teachers College or State College of Iowa, whatever it was back then.
Yep.
And told me the stories about those. It was fun listening to watching those guys wrestle. But yeah, so absolutely. And I was curious. I was just reading before we got on that he's number 2, I guess, or he's 2 guys are ahead of him. He has 133 wins, and then Kurt Meyer is my teammate, and then Rich Bowers, great wrestler for UNI, have 134. So he has only 1 win behind those guys. If he'd have won it, he'd have tied them. So, very impressive for sure. And I don't know that he was ever injured. I did figure one thing out though. I'm pretty sure I can beat him at one thing.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure I can beat him at getting back to the middle of the mat. We go out of
Yep,
that's about it.
Those methodical returns to the center of the mat. Certainly, I know rub some people the wrong way, but he certainly takes his time to reset, and that worked well for him in his career. But
KJ, if he wasn't such a hard wrestler when the whistle blows, the guy's the Energizer Bunny. And if he takes an extra second or 2, I don't care who's upset about it. I want that wrestler, my wrestler, whoever, I want to wrestle when the whistle blows, not out there dancing. So I don't care what anyone thinks. I love it.
I agree with you. Doug Schwab said it many times. If you don't like the way Parker Keckheisen competes, then you don't like wrestling. And I think he hits it right on the head. One of the most enjoyable, entertaining wrestlers I can remember covering. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And somebody that's so down to earth and humble, away from the mat. I mean, you would come across him on the street, or maybe even before or after a practice, and by your interaction, you wouldn't know that he was 5-time All-American that finished 3rd or better all 5 years, if that makes sense.
Right. And I'll say this: if you don't like him going slow back to the middle of the mat after going out of bounds, then don't go out of bounds. Wrestle out in the middle of the mat.
That's right.
You can prevent that.
That's a good
if
point.
You can hang with him.
That's a good point. Let's touch on. We had Iowa State, real tough tournament, tough year overall. one All-American in Jacob Frost, which was big tournament
Yeah, he finished 8th.
as well. Yep. One spot above his seat. So now you've got each Frost brother that are All Americans in different years. Evan was a All American last year and just missed out getting back on the podium this year. But really a tough tournament, tough season for Iowa State as a whole.
Right, and you had talked about Pinero earlier, so I'll bring it up. That was their best shot, I think, at being a high medal, and he stumbled. He actually kind of underperformed this year. I always thought he was national champion caliber wrestler, and I just didn't see that this year. And I don't know if that's the things around him. His team just always seemed to be plugging holes and with injuries. But I look for the Cyclones next year to be a very, very good team. They've got, I think they're going to have some guys coming back. It sounds like Bastida's back, right? So heavyweight. I just think that they're going to be a much better team, certainly if they can get healthy and stay healthy. So,
yep. When you look at it, you've got, I know they're kind of banking on Bastida and Echemendia getting medical or hardship waivers to come back. You've got both Frost brothers, you've got Johnson, you've got Chittum. Aiden Riggins actually put together some nice wins on the backside. At 65, MJ Gatan, he's a quality wrestler there too. That's reached the national tournament a couple times.
Swiderski too, I think, right?
Actually, Swiderski is reported being in the transfer portal.
Oh, okay.
So we'll see how that goes, because I think it's been reported that Zach Redding also in the transfer portal. So we'll see. I know they've got some good recruits coming in as well. So next year, I think they're really hoping to be kind of head and shoulders above where they're at this year. And with Bastida coming back, Herrera can actually redshirt. He had a decent season as a true freshman, and then have a year to kind of grow and learn and see where that is after Bastida's gone. I'm sure this is I'm sure Kevin Dresser is glad to be able to turn the page on the season and look forward to the future. Just want to mention also a couple former Iowa preps that earned All-American honors for a second time. Cade DeVos from Southeast Polk in South Dakota State. He placed at 174, actually made a run to the semifinals. Lost to Keegan O'Toole. Gave Keegan O'Toole actually a pretty good match there in the semis.
7-6. Good match, yeah.
Yeah, and he ends up finishing sixth, his second straight All-American finish. And then Hunter Garvin also placed sixth. He was at 165 for Stanford, his second straight sixth place finish as well. So two former Iowa preps getting on the award stand a second straight year.
Right, and here's something, a couple other off the wall sort of things. You know me, I like to do this. What do Bird, Messenbrink, and Strachey have in common at this tournament?
Bird, Messenbrink, and Strachey.
This is they're the only number one seeds to win a title.
Really?
Number one seeds did not win it.
Wow.
Yeah. So only there's 4 number one seeds that lost in the finals, and then you had others that lost in the. You had Villanova, Kasich, and Cardonas that didn't make the finals. So
Wow.
Anyway, we didn't mention, but Strochy did. I don't think you mentioned it. He was the OW.
Nope, I did not mention that.
I believe that. And then here's another one. Penn State, in their 60 matches, went 49-11, and 2 of those 11 losses were medical forfeits at heavyweight.
Really?
So, I mean, on the mat, they only lost 9 matches. That's really
national tournament.
Wow. That's, I mean, incredible. Jeez.
Yeah, and they, of course, they broke their own team record a year ago with team points. They finished with 177, 60 ahead of Nebraska. Oklahoma State was third at 102.5. Iowa and Minnesota round out, and actually Ohio State tied Minnesota for 5th place. But yeah, second team with 10 All-Americans joining the 2001 Minnesota Golden Gophers. The only teams to have 10 All-Americans at the D1 tournament. So big, more dominance from Penn State on that aspect as well. Let's talk about top 5 moments for each of us. Can be anything or everything from start to finish at Philly. Why don't you just give your top 5 moments in order, and then I'll share mine.
Okay, I'm going to go from 5 to 1. So I kind of clustered number 5, and we talked about most of this already, or all of it already. So I kind of clustered Buchanan's semifinal final win, Happel placing 5th, and Nebraska placing 2nd with 8 All-Americans. Kind of, to me, those were 3 significant things for me personally. And then number 4, this, when you're watching, you just don't see Penn State losing. Like I said, they lost 9 matches total on the mat. Well, for me, when they lost 2 number 1 seeds in the quarters, plus Brennan Davis, so they had three guys go down in the quarters. It's like, wow, that was significant. Maybe there is a chance to someone to catch Penn State.
Penn
State and Nebraska as I recall, were real tight then.
Yep.
And then number 3 for me was that we had a sitting president in attendance. I'm not picking sides on politics, but I think it's significant that we had a sitting president at the National Wrestling Tournament. And as I recall, it's the first time we've had a sitting president. We had a former president, I think Trump, you said, was there before, but so that was pretty cool. Like or dislike Trump, he is there bringing attention to our sport and giving kudos to the wrestlers and so good. I think that was a good thing. And number 2 was the 84 semifinal match with Kekkaisen and McAnally. That was so. I was jumping up and down. That's, oh my gosh, my heart was going. So that, and then obviously number 1, I won't even say. I'll just save it for you.
Okay.
The highlight of the tournament.
All right. For me, my fifth moment was Troy Spratley of Oklahoma State making the finals. Here's the reason why. Not only did he have a heck of a run to the finals, but I don't think a lot. And I didn't know this until it kind of got brought up during the pre-tournament press conference. There apparently were pretty substantial fires in the Stillwater area.
Oh yeah.
The week leading up to it. At the beginning of the week, Troy Spratley was on a bulldozer moving earth trying to save a home.
That's impressive. Wow.
A week later, he's a 7 seed and makes the finals and beats Matt Ramos from Purdue. Can't remember who he beat. Ventresca from Virginia Tech, just to get to the finals after being on a bulldozer at the beginning of the week trying to save properties and stuff like that with fires that That's crazy. So that was one thing that kind of rooting for him. That was pretty awesome, I think. 4 was Patrick Kennedy winning in the blood round. Patrick Kennedy is somebody that, whether you like Iowa or not, there are certain people that they're grinders, they're blue collar, lunch pail, having a dad that worked in a factory the majority of his life. I really love watching blue collar, lunch pail type kids. He's one of them. He's talked about how, money doesn't matter to him. He's wrestling in Iowa because he wants to be here. And if he's got to go and put his work boots on after he's done wrestling, so be it. He's fine with that. But being there twice, I know a lot of people have kind of wanted him out of the lineup. You listen to fans talk and say, hey, get somebody else in there. Some people wanted Nelson Brands to be in that position. But you could also see the relief when he got into the top 8, and then for him to finish 4th as well. I thought that was a cool moment. Cal Happel reaching the semifinals. Already mentioned JB's line. How about them Happels? But him also finishing with a victory, and that's huge. And seeing how he's dealt with disappointment only to become better each year, and then to finish on the podium his final season, I thought that was awesome. Steve Buchanan winning the title. I talked about how he's the humility that he's shown. Somebody that did that. Even if you want to put an asterisk by it, to be first All-American at 3 different institutions. Somebody that had been kind of on the precipice of the finals and to be turned away each time to finally get there his senior year, having that matchup with Ferrari in the semis, and overcoming that, and then winning it all in his final campaign. That was great. And of course, I'm bundling the Starochi Hendrickson wins just because you have a 5-timer. But the Hendrickson win over Gable Stevenson, I mean, that was amazing. I know I watched Caldwell beat Metcalf. I've seen Ramos beat Lee. Bubba Jenkins beat David Taylor. This is by far the biggest upset I've seen in person. Well, not in person, but that I've watched live. That there are certain different things throughout that match. The takedown that he thwarted at the end of the first, I think it was, using, he's dumped to his butt, but he's able to get his leg out, to block off Stevenson from covering him. We've talked about it many times with him. He's so agile and athletic for a heavyweight that it's not a typical heavyweight. And of course, Stevenson isn't either. But him able to thwart that takedown, and then for him to have the power and the energy and just the determination to get that takedown and then ride Stevenson out for the last 20 seconds. That was amazing. And that you talked about jumping up and down with Keckeisen. I was literally kind of up off my seat yelling maybe some profanities that out of excitement, because it was an amazing win, amazing moment.
So talking about getting excited and profanities, I got to tell you a funny story. But I'm third party, so I can only tell you as it was explained to me. And thinking of upsets, so upsets to me, Ed Bannock getting upset. Kerry McCoy getting upset. Watching Lincoln McElravy upset Jerry Abbas, and that's what this story's about.
Oh yeah,
was it Jerry Abbas? One of the Abbases. Yeah. And anyway, over at Hilton Coliseum, and I was down on the floor. I was on the NWCA committee, and anyway, so the McElravy, with his boot scoots and whatever, I was tired and scores the victory, and Gable. My assistant coach was sitting in the front row, right behind Gable, and Gable turns around to the crowd and yells, "I told you you'd effing do it!" He got excited and he let out a good one.
Oh yeah, so, for sure.
Like I said, I'm third party, so I can't substantiate that, but it's good source.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that was a pretty momentous finish to their careers, to the tournament, to the season. It was something that I'm sure really helps the sport of wrestling too. And I want to say this: I know it wasn't easy for Gable Stevenson, and I know he's kind of a polarizing figure, but to see the way he reacted after that, that loss and patting Hendrickson on the back on the award stand, whether it was something that he had to do or whatever, seeing wrestlers not be so gracious in defeat. And, that's one thing, like him or hate him. I think Gable Stevenson surely handled that well.
100% agree with that. And hopefully that, people that might be in that situation, wrestlers that might be in that situation in the future, look at that and go, that was a classy thing to do and to maintain it. I'm not sure if Gable would have done that earlier in his career, obviously it wouldn't have been all the success that he'd had, but so he handled it like a pro. So I agree with you. That I'm a bigger fan now because of Gable than I was because of that. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I asked you about: biggest Cinderella champion.
Well, I mean, I'm going to go with the runner-up, which was the lowest seed. I mean, that would be the easy one. Vincent Robinson, North Carolina State at 125. But I mean, that obviously that crown belongs to Wyatt. He was, to beat the Olympic champion.
True. I actually went with Vincent Robinson just because, Hendrickson, that's the biggest upset, right? Yeah. Nobody probably expected to see that happen. The reason why I'm going with Robinson, though, not just because he was a 4 seed, but from my understanding, he didn't win a high school title in Illinois. He was never a state champion. I'm going to get a little choked up just because that's the way I am, but I saw a video of him hugging one of the North Carolina State coaches. I don't know if it was Papalizio or one of the assistants in the tunnel, and he said, "Thank you for believing in me."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And he's just a sophomore. Really cool. Isn't he just a sophomore?
Yeah. Might be a freshman.
A freshman? Okay. Maybe a redshirt. I mean, that's a young champ.
Yeah, and everybody else passed on him. Nobody didn't have a lot of suitors. North Carolina State obviously saw something in him, and to go from not being a high school champion to being an NCAA champion, that's I think that's kind of maybe the epitome of being a Cinderella story.
Right. That's a Drew Foster story.
Yeah. Very, very, very similar situation. Well, yeah, similar situations. Mm-hmm. who's your biggest shock not to make the finals? Who was somebody that you thought for sure would be wrestling Saturday night and ended up having to finish up Saturday morning?
This is a toss-up because I had two guys winning it on my own little bracket that I didn't share with anyone. I guess on our show last time. But so I actually have two guys, Lil Adal at 25 and Ferrari at 97. Those two are my – yeah, I thought they were going to win it all, and neither one even made the finals.
I had Tyler Kasich at 157. I thought that was somebody that with 157, I thought, especially his height of the bracket, I would have never predicted Joey Blaze knocking him off. And credit Joey Blaze, he had a really nice Big Ten tournament and an even better national tournament, getting second at 157. But I had Tyler Kasich there as far as somebody that I was shocked didn't make it to Saturday night, and certainly thought he would win the whole thing there at 57. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but we mentioned Keckeisen getting beat. We mentioned Stevenson getting beat. This was not a fun tournament for NCAA champions.
No.
Can you guess how many former NCAA champions did not win a title this year?
Well, you kind of shared a few names with me, but it didn't have Parker in there, and I don't think it had Gable in there maybe. So I'm going to say 8.
Very close. 9.
9. Okay. Wow.
9. So here are the 9 champs that did not repeat. Some of them didn't even reach the award stand and did an All-American this year. Richie Figueroa of Arizona State at 125. Then you've got Andrew Alvarez of Northern Colorado at 141. Caleb Henson of Virginia Tech at 149. Lost in the finals to Ridge Lovett. Keegan O'Toole of Missouri at 174. Levi Haynes of Penn State at 174. Then Keckeisen at 184. AJ Ferrari, Cal State Bakersfield and Okie State at 197. And then you've got Stevenson and Kirk Villette of Penn State at heavyweight. All of them did not win again.
So there's 9. What? Wow, dude, we had a bunch of returning champs, didn't we? Or former champs, because you had at least, I'm thinking off the top of my head, Messenbrink, Starochi, Mendez that were champs, right? And they were former champs. We had 12, unless I'm missing someone, 12 returning champs. Wow, what a great year.
Did you include Starochi in that?
Yeah, I did. Messenbrink, Starochi, and Mendez were the 3.
Mendez.
So,
Yeah, 12 former champs in the field and only 3.
Well, so obviously, if all returning champs would have won, you still would have had 2, but 9 that didn't win it. That's wow. I think that's a record.
Yeah. And Figueroa, who got beat by Trevor Anderson, got knocked out of the tournament by UNI's Trevor Anderson, didn't make the award stand, and I don't believe Alvarez did either. So 2 of them there. And then you think about what Oklahoma State did, where both Dean Hamady and Wyatt Hendrickson beat 2 former national champs to win their titles. So big there. Okay, here's the stumper for you. Carter Starochi beat Parker Keckeisen in the finals to become the first 5-time D1 champion. I've already given you part of the answer, but who are the 5 people that Starochi beat in the finals?
Oh, geez. I don't have a clue. You're going to have to, I can't even guess.
Okay. I'll give you, one of them was an Iowa Hawkeye. His first title was against a Hawkeye.
Is that Kemmerer?
Yep. So you've got Cameron Keckeisen, his 2 bracket wins. One of them, his second title was against a former national champ. He won it. The former national champ won it his freshman year. I think he came back and won like his senior year, maybe. But he was a freshman national champ who beat upset Alex Marinelli that year when he won it.
Yeah. Where was he from? That was in Pittsburgh, wasn't it?
Yeah,
we were there and watched it. That wrestler was so fun to watch.
He was from Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. I can't think of his name. I know who you're talking about, though.
Mekhi Lewis.
Mekhi Lewis, yes. Oh, man. Before, yeah. Yeah, what a... Yeah, he beat Marinelli first round, didn't he?
Yeah, second round.
Second round?
Second round.
Yeah.
Yeah, very early. Okay, so the next one is a Nebraska wrestler.
I thought there was a Nebraska one in there. I don't remember.
He's from New Jersey. He's kind of got like a Sopranos type of name to him.
I never watched The Sopranos, so I don't know.
Okay. Mikey Labriola.
Oh, Labriola, yeah, there we go.
And this one's the most obscure one. It's who he beat in the finals last year at 174. From Ohio State.
Man.
And you could even give me a Buckeyes roster. I probably wouldn't have picked this one out.
Yeah, I don't
it's tough. Rocco Welsh.
Oh, geez. I hardly remember him. Yeah. I hardly remember.
Right. So Starocci's 5 titles or 5 finals wins came against Kemmerer, Mekhi Lewis, Mikey Labriola, Rocco Welsh, and then Parker Keckeisen.
Yeah.
So, we've kind of touched on it a little bit. How does the transfer portal affect next season? Are we going to see even more people in different programs looking to it? It's not transfer portal, but Masasuke Ono, they've already announced that he's going to be wrestling for Penn State, the world champ that's been training with the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. He's now a student. He'll be in the lineup for Penn State. Caleb Rachi has announced he's in the portal for Iowa. We mentioned Swiderski and Redding for Iowa State.
I have a question, KJ. Is the transfer portal public?
No.
That only coaches can see that, right?
Only coaches can see that. And wrestlers, athletes announce that, and that's where Swiderski, Rachi, the information came from. They announced it on their social media.
Okay. All right. So obviously those wrestlers can get into it because they need to be able to see, or maybe the coaches have to contact them. I don't know how that works.
I think they list whether or not they want people to contact them. So this is basketball related, but I think when Darian Freeze left West Virginia, took the Indiana job, there's a player, might have been his son even. There's a player from West Virginia that entered the transfer portal and was listed do not contact. So in other words, they didn't want to be contacted by anybody, which means they knew where they were going anyway or already. Or you could I think you can choose who is allowed to contact you or who you, uh, kind of like your wish list of, I only want UNI, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri to contact, or you can leave it wide open. That's my understanding of everything. So,
and that's where it becomes iffy with because the coaches aren't supposed to contact them until they're
right.
actually in it, and then there's only a window of time that they can contact them at that it's open, right? So that's when hopefully the coaches, I don't know, aren't, or maybe not even the coaches, the people associated with their program, the peripheral people, aren't contacting those athletes.
And I think that's where the loophole. I think that's where the loophole is, where people, like you said, on the outside or the periphery of the program that aren't officially part of it can reach out and say, "Hey, come here. We need you. You could cash it on this." So, I think it's going to have an immeasurable impact. I think you're going to see a lot of people that finished high wearing different colored singlets next year. Except for, and I think there's even maybe a few backups at Penn State that are hitting the portal, but I think for the most part, Penn State's going to be intact. I think Oklahoma State will be intact and actually add some people. I'm sure Iowa, they had a few transfers. They've added a few transfers each year, the last 2 or 3 years. I think what it's going to cause is the haves and the have-nots are going to be separated by an even bigger gap.
Absolutely. And I think might happen, you might see a little bit more because some of the programs might have obtained funds to be able to attract some people in that they didn't have, say, last year. So, you might have some of those schools that have now a little bit of fighting power, I'll say, a little bit of a war chest or whatever you want to call it, to bring someone in. So you may see that. I don't know. If I have a teammate that comes in that just got $500,000, we'll say, I might have a little chip on my shoulder about that teammate that's not getting it done. It's taking my spot or whatever. So you might see some movement there too. So
sure, because of that. Sure. I just have a bad feeling it's going to be a wild, wild west. Until some more things get done. Now, here's one other thing that's going to affect it too. There's going to be a roster cap starting next year, where you just can't have guys on the roster. You just can't have this giant roster. That would include practice room, partners pretty much. They're going to have to streamline, and that's going to affect things too.
Right. And if they can, I've heard people throwing this out there, base it on achievement. Now, I'm all right with that. If someone comes into the program and then they get, say, an All-American level or a conference, a national qualifier, All-American, national champ, then they can earn it. Okay, fine. But, to give it to them and then nothing happens, or, injuries or leaving the program or whatever, which we've seen in football, right? Someone came into the Iowa program and then evidently took that NIL money and then went back to the program they left. If you remember that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, Southeast Polk athlete, if I remember right.
Yep. So we'll have to work out our own NIL deal before next season. So see if we can't get a bigger payout.
I think, if we can find a local restaurant or something to.
Yeah, let's throw that out there. Let's make this a a destination podcast. If there's any place that would like to welcome us for our weekly podcast next season, let us know. We'll work out a deal. Right?
Right. Yep.
So
I need to contact my agent first.
Okay. Well, hey, any other final thoughts here before we close out? Not just this podcast, but the entire season. It's been a heck of a year. Been a lot of fun.
I got nothing. I mean, I think we've covered it all. It was a fun year, and it's a blast. Hopefully, those listen. We appreciate you listening, and you're able to listen throughout the whole podcast because we have fun talking.
Yes, for sure. We like bringing you the sport of wrestling. We like promoting the sport of wrestling. We like informing and entertaining as much as we can. And we can't do it without you guys watching. So we'd like to thank you for tuning in each week, listening to us and supporting the sport of wrestling. I want to thank you, Dick. You bring such a great insight. You've filled so many roles within the sport, from competitor, coach, official, media member. It's awesome the way that you're an ambassador for the sport. I had the opportunity of wrestling against your teams and watch you coach. When you had some amazing teams at Jefferson, to be able to work with you now, like we have for about probably pretty close to a decade now, it has been a privilege, and I thank you for that as well. This year, I'd really like to thank Becky Gardner. We had a former colleague and Nathan Ford move on to a different role, different job in Minneapolis. Becky stepped in and took care of us, dealt with us each morning and each week, and we appreciate everything Becky's done for us and for this podcast. So thank you, Becky. And there's only one thing left to do now. Wrap it up with the great words of our late friend, G. White Schultz.
Until next year, let's keep wrestling on the move.